Today we are taking my macro photography to a challenging and new level with the Laowa 25mm 2.5 to 5 times magnification macro lens and a focusing rail by NiSi. We may succeed, we may also fail, but either way I hope you will join me today. Courtney Victoria, a Nikon D750 and a forest of tiny things. This is not going to be easy, so honestly, if I can get just one semi-decent photo today with this lens, I will be so happy. I'm really fascinated by macro photography in the forest, in the woods at the moment, as you can probably tell, as it just opens up this whole new world, this new perspective of things to find and photograph. I would love to find slime mould, from fungi to slime mould. I feel like that's a natural progression, right? That to find something that's millimeters in size, that is next level. And I think I've trained myself to find fungi pretty well so far, but this, yeah, it's a completely new challenge that I'm really excited by. I love the process of just exploring the forest, looking for these tiny things and really getting into the nitty-gritty details. There's some strange things around the forest. It's actually really fun to look through one of these jeweler magnifying lenses. It just opens up so much more texture and detail that I just don't see and overlook. That would be thunder. And it makes me realize how little I know about the forest, and I don't have a clue what I'm looking at half the time. Is that a fungi? Is that a mold? Are those eggs? I don't know. I think I have found a couple of interesting things to photograph after searching around the floor for rotting bits of wood. Now this, I think, is a common type of slime mold. And this is going to be interesting to photograph because it really is absolutely tiny. Otherwise, I think I have found, I can't decide whether I think it's a fungi or a slime mold. I think it's really easy to mix the two up and get confused. But this is very alien looking. A quick look into the gear that we're using today. So we do have the Laowa 25mm 2.5 to 5 times magnification ultra macro lens. Now Laowa have allowed me to borrow this today for this video, so this is not mine, but I think I'm going to wish that it was mine and it was a permanent addition to my camera bag, probably by the end of this video. This lens will allow me to photograph subjects as small as a millimetre with the 5 times magnification without having to use any extension tubes or anything like that. Now this lens is much lighter and smaller than I thought it was going to be, and it is manual focus only, so this here is the aperture ring. And this lens is designed with an extended working distance and a small barrel to allow sufficient light to gather on the subject for ease of use in the field. Now we are going to need to focus bracket and focus stack this image. So usually when I do that with my macro work, I will shift the focus ring, take a photo, shift the focus ring, take a photo, and so on. This lens does not have a focus ring, so instead we're going to set the magnification on the lens. We are then going to need to move the entire lens and camera either back or forth. So in order to do that, we are going to need to use a focusing rail. So let's pop the focusing rail onto my tripod head, and I'm just going to take a moment to make sure I'm where I want to be and fiddle with all the dials and things to set this shot up. It's a bit fiddly working at this sort of magnification already, I'm finding, so it's just going to take me a few minutes to make sure I'm exactly where I want to be. This is my first time using a focusing rail for my macro photography, and for some reason in my mind I made it out to be some really complicated tool, but it isn't. Instead of changing the focus ring, I'm just going to shift this dial here in tiny increments in order to shift my focus. So what I'm going to do is start slightly in front of this slime mold and then work my way from front to back, the camera and the lens moving further down this focusing rail towards the subject. I can already see how much more stable using a focusing rail is. Usually when I use my 100mm Laowa, it's really easy to cause vibrations and shake just by sort of touching the focus ring and moving things, but unless I'm really grabbing the camera, just moving this dial, I'm hardly creating any vibrations and shake, which is fantastic. And many of you will be so pleased to see me with my shutter release control, because it was bothering so many of you that I wasn't using one, so we have that now. So this is going to take a bit of time to do this and stack all the images needed to create this image, and I am going to move because I don't want to be leaning on my tripod while I do this, because that could create some shake and vibration. So we're going to get started on focus bracketing this. It was at this moment it decided to start raining, a hint of thunder in the distance. So I got to work as quickly as possible, hoping to avoid the erratic spring weather. Honestly, this rain is becoming a bit of a pain. So I have noticed that the fungi / slime mold that I spotted earlier, it's sort of absorbing the rain, and it's just becoming really wet and like gloopy, and it's losing the texture and the shape that I spotted earlier. It's really, really difficult to show you this because it's so tiny and close up. So I don't think I'm going to try and photograph that today. I'm wondering if we just pop back to the editing studio and see if this worked or not, and then sort of take it from there, figure out if I need to change my technique, or, you know, I do know that some slime mold photographers, they take them as samples when they find them, and then they go and put them in a controlled environment in a studio where they can control the lighting and their exposure and make sure you don't get little bugs running around the scene while you're trying to focus bracket. So I don't know if I'm going to do that. I quite like being on location, but it is very challenging. Right, we have 68 photos here in this stack. Now, we probably don't need to use all of them, but for now I'm going to drag and drop them all into the focus stacking software that I use, which is Helicon Focus. So we're going to drag and drop all 68 into the source images, and then I'm going to render them all together with method B, which is depth map. So I tend to have the most success with method B out of all of the rendering methods, so we're just going to run with this one and see how this turns out. Okay. Yeah. I'm not going to be disappointed. I'm not going to be disappointed. Let's be real. First time shooting at almost 5 times magnification is not going to be easy. So generally, in one way, this stack has been successful. Sometimes when you stack a lot of images together like this, or a scene is very complex with quite a few subjects within it, and they're all sort of at different focal points, you can get a lot of artifacts and ghosting and anomalies in the image that you then have to manually retouch. This is not too bad. We've got a few artifacts in the top here, And this bit here is looking a bit dodgy, but this is easy to retouch. The main problem here is the fact that our slime mold is not sharp. We have clearly had some micro movement happening here. Now, really at this kind of magnification, the tiniest movement is going to be magnified and can then ruin the sharpness of a stack. So clearly we've had something happen here. Either it was quite windy, so perhaps we had a bit of movement that I didn't notice within this branch and this slime mold. I also could have caused some movement as well somehow. So yes, that is not ideal. Sometimes if a stack doesn't render together very well, if you sort of take a few of the images out, then it can help. So we're going to try that, render that again. Okay, I actually think that's slightly better. That is a slight improvement, but still not quite as sharp as I would like that to be. So I think what I'm going to do is grab the D850 and use the focus peaking feature so I can see on the LCD screen what is in focus and what is not, and try again. So let's get back out in the field. So I think most of Storm Nelson has passed at this point. So although everything is very wet and muddy, we are back out seeing what we can find. And I have already found some teeny tiny fungi. Now, these larger fungi I can usually photograph at 100mm at 1 or 2 times magnification perfectly fine, but these smaller ones that are still growing, I always want to photograph those, but I can never get close enough because they're so tiny. So I think we're going to give that a go. Now I am going to shift this branch because it's not very stable in this position, so I'm going to move it just to make sure we don't get any movement or rocking. Right, we are set up. We are at 3 times magnification on the smallest fungi. Now I was going to get really close, but actually I want to go slightly wider to get a glimpse of those 2 large ones in the background, so you get an idea of scale. I kind of like that. I got to it, and as I started taking photos, I realised my success rate was possibly no better than the first time around. So I have attempted to stack this scene a few times now. I've been sat there for a really long time and I'm struggling because the light is so inconsistent. Every few shots I take, the light shifts, and even if I try and block it with my body and use my reflector to block the light, it's still not consistent throughout the images. So yeah, I don't think this is going to work, but I think I might keep trying off camera for a while and see if we have any success. I didn't manage to get a successful stack in the end, and instead of getting frustrated over it, I decided just to pack up and go and enjoy the forest for a bit. Turns out this is not as easy as I hoped it would be. I mean, to be fair, I did know that my success rate with this was going to be very slim for the first time using it. But props to those photographers who can take handheld shots with this. That's crazy. I can imagine how you could get such incredible results with this lens already. And I know how sharp Laowa lenses can be, as I have the 100mm. So I would just feel so incredibly accomplished and proud in the future if I could successfully stack a shot with this. So will I be adding this lens to my camera bag? Probably yes, at some point. As you can tell, I am loving the macro photography right now. It just opens up this whole new world of interesting things, and it would be great to continue that and go into it further. Slime molds. Slime molds are so cool. Aren't they just the most fascinating thing? So yeah, it would be great to, over the next few weeks and months, to sort of record, I guess, my progress, my growth, my failures, hopefully some successes, fine-tuning the technique of this type of photography, and eventually be able to share that with you. I do need to give this lens back to Laowa, so I just want to thank Laowa for allowing me to borrow, to try and test this. Such a fantastic experience. It's going to consume me. It's going to consume me until I succeed. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video, and I'm going to have a nap on this mossy tree because it's actually really comfortable. See you next time.